Apologies if I talk too fast, I currently have too much caffeine in my system, what am I doing? But yes, this is the other side of yesterday's video, of course it is. And you know what's strange about this? Usually you'd think it's easier to pick out 7 players who aren't legends for any clubs than those who are legends for 1 or more, but not necessarily, because don't forget we are only talking about great players who've played for great clubs, and when these two combine together, most players tend to stay put somewhere for a considerable amount of time and in turn achieve somewhat considerable amounts of success. But not always, just look at these guys. But before you do, there's one thing I kinda have to warn you about, and I promise this wasn't on purpose, but this list somehow ended up being filled with strikers only. What the fuck? Like, am I missing something, or rather someone, or are strikers just more prone to moving around and or, well, being pricks? Well, either way, let me know of any defensive players that could have potentially made this list, but as it is for now, 7 footballers who aren't legends for any clubs since 2004. Here's the criteria, let's roll on. Number 7, Carlos Tevez. Unless fans of Boca Juniors can tell me otherwise, Carlos Tevez is one of the most obvious names for a list like this. He's a cult hero for West Ham as he helped keep them up, but then spent 2 of his 3 years out on loan to United. Which brings me to, he played his best stuff at United, but that didn't end well as he left after an argument with Sir Alex Ferguson and jumped straight across town to Man City. Which brings me to, while he had his longest spell with a European team at Man City, even that sure wasn't without his issues as he had public fallouts with their then manager too in Roberto Mancini and didn't really feature all that much in their title winning season. He then left to spend 2 years at Juventus where actually, he was brilliant, winning back-to-back league titles and reaching a Champions League final. But yeah, even that was far from achieving legend status. Though knowing the character of the man, I don't think he cares all that much. Brother literally does what he wants. Number 6, Daniel Sturridge. He was a great player, I don't give a f what anyone says. Peak Daniel Sturridge could have played for Real Madrid. But that's the problem. I don't think we got to see the man at his absolute peak. Another pacey, world-class English talent hampered with injuries from early on. When Daniel Sturridge finally matured and set his decision-making right, bro was a problem for any defense he came up against. Capable of playing on either wing as well as up front, Sturridge had his longest and most successful spell with Liverpool from 2013 to 2019. Even there though, despite showing glimpses of his amazing ability when he was able to stay injury-free, he just couldn't string enough runs together that were both consistent and successful enough for him to be considered a club legend. But man, go back and look at some of the illegal stuff he and Suarez did in the 13-14 season, his Trivela in the 2016 Europa League final against Sevilla, among being one of England's very few highlights in the 2014 World Cup, and tell me this guy didn't have greatness in him. Cause I'm telling you now, Daniel Sturridge at his best was better than Harry Kane. Number 5, Robin van Persie. He had the longevity at Arsenal, he had the success and fan adulation at United, he had a healthy mix of both for neither. And it's weird because people after seeing Robin van Persie on this list might assume I've only included him because of how much he is hated by Arsenal fans, but it honestly isn't just that. Because you see, one thing that's actually forgotten by, well, not Arsenal fans, but you know, the rest of us, normal people, despite spending 8 years with the Gunners, when it comes to his individual form across those 8 years, it was very hit and miss most of the time. Like, here's a clip explaining exactly what I mean. Because you see, in the 11 years RVP spent in England, he passed 20 league goals and 30 in all competitions on just 2 occasions. In fact, he finished 8 of those 11 seasons with less than 15 goals in the league. And bear in mind that bar the first 2 or 3 years at Arsenal, he was basically the go-to goal getter in every team he was in. I wouldn't say these are legendary figures personally. And yes, as I said, while he is loved by United fans and did win them the league in his first season, given the enormous history of that club and the contributions of those who came before him, I just don't think he did enough for long enough to be considered a legend up there, or anywhere as a matter of fact. But hey, much like the case with Tevez and his boyhood club, Feyenoord fans may tell me different about RVP, who knows. Number 4, Emmanuel Adebayor. Yeah, ain't no one telling me different about this guy. Okay, so with the rest of the lads on this list, the reason why they're not considered a legend for the clubs they played for with respect to the criteria is usually pretty lopsided one way or another. They either haven't done enough for the club or are usually far too hated by the fan base, but very rarely both. Rarely, but not never, Case in point, Emmanuel Shea Adebayo, aka if the term serial troll was a person. He had his best years at Arsenal where, despite having a 30-goal season under his belt, it was during the Gunners' 9-year trophyless spell. He then spent 3 more years at Man City where he was loaned out for a huge chunk of it, not to mention his highlight up there being celebrating in front of Arsenal fans. He then didn't exactly help the case by having further spells in other London clubs like Tottenham and Crystal Palace, where he didn't really have enough time to do too much either. In fact, the only trophy he won in his entire career was the Copa del Rey with Real Madrid during his few months there on another loan spell. And then yes, on top of all that, he's not really liked by anyone. Well, I like him, but as for the rest of you, man, brother, this guy makes Ashley Cole look like N'Golo Kante. And you know what the saddest thing is? All this whole shit really overshadows the fact that bro was a problem on the pitch. Well, he was apparently a problem off the pitch as well, but yeah. My point is he was a very, very good player. Shame not many of his fans would admit to it though. Number 3, Nicolas Anelka. Okay, so I almost didn't include Anelka here because of how much Arsenal fans love him for his 3 years at Highbury, but come on, that was nowhere near enough for him to be a legend. And aside from those 3 years in North London, the closest shout Anelka has is probably his 4 years in West London with Chelsea, the longest spell he had with any club during his career, winning a double in 09-10. But again, not only was he far from being the main man or amongst the best players in his team that season, when you consider that he also missed a final penalty during the shootout in Moscow just a few months into that spell, I highly doubt any Chelsea fans putting him up there with Peter Osgood and Frank Lampard. And even outside his 2 spells with the 2 biggest clubs in London, Anelka has also played for some of the biggest clubs in the world in Real Madrid, Juventus, PSG, Liverpool, amongst many others in a true journeyman's career. Something that is even more mind-boggling considering how good he really was. Like real talk, when he, Thierry Henry and David Trezeguet were coming through the ranks in France, Anelka was considered the best of the lot, but due to a combination of some unfortunate circumstances, apparent misunderstandings, and him allegedly being a very problematic character off the pitch, he never really got the time to truly stamp his mark on any of the 12 different sides he played for throughout his career. 12 different sides. Brother's basically a League 2 player with an upgraded FIFA card. Number 2, Ronaldo. I don't consider him a Real Madrid legend, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think there's any question of him having that status anywhere else, but Real Madrid is probably where R9 comes the closest to being a legend. And I'm guessing some of you may raise your eyebrows given that I named David Beckham as a legend yesterday and I'm saying R9 isn't one today, despite these guys being at Madrid for a similar amount of time and achieving similar amounts of success. But you see, the difference is, and again sorry, but this shit does matter, Becks across those 4 years always turned up and gave it his all no matter what. Like I mentioned it yesterday, but the man was being played out of position for the longest of time and still just knuckled down and got on with it, turning in at least 7 out of 10 in most days. Whereas as far as R9 goes, well, his time at Real Madrid basically reflected his entire career. When he was game, he was the best in the game, but game he was approximately once every 700 days, or in other words, whenever he felt like it. And then throw in the fact that he was let go by Fabio Capello for being overweight during one of the most difficult times of the 06-07 season where Real was struggling to stay in the top 4, the exact time where Becks too was told he'd never play for the club again but then worked his way back and left with the title. Yeah, these men ain't the same. Anyways, back to the actual topic of R9. Yeah, despite being one of the greatest talents in the history of the game, it is pretty strange that R9 hasn't achieved legendary status with any club. As a matter of fact, here's a question and be honest. When you think of R9, what shirt do you envisage him in? Because for me, it's Brazil. That should tell you all you need to know. And yeah, if I was to rank these non-legends purely on how good they were, no doubt R9 would come out on top. But when you factor in the visibly vile, vicious vitriol violently vented and verbalized by the viewers who vacuously vexed us, vigorously vilify these vagabonds when they visit the variety of venues they once used to primarily apply their trade in, well, no one really hates R9, do they? I mean, how can you? He doesn't need to be a legend for any club. He's a legend of the game, man. Just a legend in general. What a G. Number 1, Lionel Messi. He was pretty underwhelming in Paris, doesn't seem to be taking Miami all that seriously. And yes, while he did do great things at Barca, don't forget this man refused to take a wage cut and left the club when they were actually at I love YouTube. Number 1, Mike Owen. Oh man. Yeah, this is quasi-tragic. Not only is he not considered a legend for any of the clubs he played for, but he's strongly disliked by nearly all of them. He is disliked by Liverpool for signing for Manchester United. He is disliked by Manchester United for achieving so much with Liverpool. He is disliked by Newcastle for being a waste of money, as they put it. And as for Real Madrid, well, given that these man them booed people like Ramos, Ronaldo and Zidane, I don't think they're giving Michael Owen much thought. And also he called R9 fat, which I don't think was much appreciated. And if I'm honest, and honestly, I've been wanting to say this for a while now, most of the hate Michael Owen gets is pretty much completely unjustified. Sorry, but it is. And again, I am 110% dead serious when I say this. That partly includes his move to Manchester United. Yes, even the hate he gets for that is semi-unjustified. If you wish to know the full reasons behind that, I genuinely wouldn't mind making an entire video on that topic. Let me know if you'd like to see it. But yeah man, this dude does not deserve the hate he gets. He is underrated as a player despite being world class. He is underrated as a pundit despite being mediocre. And as a personality, honestly, he's so bland, I actually find him entertaining. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, either way, that is that for now. Agree or disagree beats indifference. So what do you think of this list? Are there any other great players who aren't legends for any club since 2004 that I've missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, keep rolling.